Yeah, hey everyone, thanks for stopping by. I'm over here on the Tryhackme lab today, and what I'm going through is this exercise that's interpreter exploitation for a reverse shell with the msfvenom exploit. They say it's easy, but I found it to be pretty challenging. So what we want to do is, I won't go through in as far as everything that's listed here. Just try to get down to the meat and potatoes as far as what we want to do. So as you can see, we want to basically go down and create our file that's specific to Linux for creating the reverse shell. So we're going to copy this command here to create that exploit with the elf file, and then this is going to allow us to get in and do what we need to do with the reverse shell. So I've already set up or ran the MSF console because it takes a while to spin that up. So let's see here. Let's go ahead and then I also created this file, basically the rev shell. So what I did is you want to go ahead, the default port is 4444, and then it's also, you're going to want to set the L host to your attack box IP here. So I've already done that as well, just as a time saver. And what we want to do next is create our Python to get that file over there, our Python web server. So let's grab that information out of here. So we'll go ahead and establish the web server, and then we can gather our file out this way and get it over to our box that we're going to exploit the reverse shell with. So let's paste this in here. And then we just run the wget command as it mentions there in the doc on the doc. And then port 9000, and then rev underscore shell. You don't have to name it rev shell. You can basically name it whatever you want. Might help if I SSH to our target box. So this, we're going to have to SSH into our target box that we're going to get the exploit on. So let me grab those credentials here. And one of the things I recommend doing is that you're going to have to put this file into the temp directory, but this guy has the sudo rights, so you can just type sudo su because Murphy has all rights on this machine. So this is going to get us into sudo, and then at this point, let's run our wget command to get that file over there. 189, call it 9000. All right, so once we get our file over there, over here on the box we're going to exploit, we want to do a chmod. They would say chmod plus X on this, but I'll just go ahead and do the 777 and then set that to executable. And then at this point, we want to get into our MSF console. Let's see here. So we should be able to get our session established. So I like to usually run a listener over here just to see if we got that established. So what we want to do next is to get into the particular exploit we're going to be using here, which is the multi-handler one. So we'll go ahead and get into this exploit that's going to be used for the reverse shell. So we can do use, and you can also type search if you wanted to find any sort of exploit out of the 2000 plus in there. So once we get into the multi-handler, we need to get into the correct payload. And that payload is going to be the specific to the Linux shell one that we need to use. So that's going to be this one here with the reverse TCP. So we'll just go ahead and do, I think it's set payload. This, so that gets us into the correct payload. And at this point, we should be able to just run it, and then we can establish that remote shell, hopefully, if all goes according to plan. And then you also want to do some other things that I didn't mention, the show options, just to verify that it's set correctly. So yeah, we need to actually set that R host or the L host value. And we're going to set that to our attack box IP up there. And then we're going to make sure we've got that set. So it should be good now to go ahead and type run or exploit, and then that should kick that off to get that listener up. So now that we've got our listener up running there, we should be good to establish the Meterpreter remote shell exploit. So just go ahead and type this, the dot / rev shell dot elf. So at that point, we can see that we're jumped right into our interpreter and we've got established over here. So at this point, we've infiltrated that box and we are now essentially on that machine over there. And if you type question mark, you can see all of the different exploits. And the task was to gather the hash file. There's a few ways of doing that. The way that I'd actually recommend it is if you look at the tips in the Tryhackme, they actually have you just run this command to get the hash files, which works. It's one of two ways. You should be able to actually go into the etc directory by cd etc and then cat the shadow file, and then that will show you all the hash files. But another way is to run this command here, and then it should get us what we need as far as those hash files. So the task was to get Claire's hash, which would be up to this right there. And then at that point, you've completed that task. Found it to be relatively challenging. So I hope this helps anybody else that might be struggling on this. They called it easy, but I found it to be pretty difficult. Um, but yeah, another way, I believe, like I was mentioning, you should be able to go into Etsy and then do a cat on that shadow file, which would basically do the same thing and actually gives you more output like that. So this is the two ways of gathering that information. And I hope that somebody that might have been struggling on this like I was, that they find this helpful. So thanks a lot and have a good day.